Hey everybody, this is Ori from OneScales, and today's topic, I'm going to talk to you about something I've been thinking about lately about how to improve service company businesses. Last podcast, last audio I made was 11 things I wish I knew before starting a web agency, and I wanted to share some insight, and I got some good insight and context because of that topic, and I wanted to make more. So very simply put, I ran a web agency, basically a B2B service company, a company that provided services for other company. Basically, we call a web agency or a service company. And I've been thinking, how do I provide some insight how to improve these kind of companies for those of you that want to start a web agency or any kind of service company? And what things can you do to improve that business, the profitability, the services, things like that? So today's topic is what I call service as a product MVP launch in 1 week. So let me explain what that means is when you provide a service, no matter if you're a digital service like me, provide some development or design or something digital, or you're a physical service, you are actually providing home services like you clean a pool or you're a locksmith or any kind of service, you're providing any kind of physical or non-physical service. You typically go as a service, you have a very long cycle. It's a very difficult business to make money to survive. So what you do is you do your sales, your marketing, eventually you get a lead, and you take a while, depending on the type of business, to close the lead, and then you actually do the project, and you're all doing it custom for that specific customer, no matter if it's business customer or personal customer or private customer. And so you're spending a lot of time in every single project, you're doing it for that specific case. And a lot of them are really, really custom. So you can't really reuse them. You're spending so much effort to close this project and then actually do it. And then you have to seek the next one and next and next one. So what I'm trying to provide you guys is to think about providing services as a product. And this whole topic is to talk about service as a product. And the particular is launch it in 1 week, right? MVP, minimal viable product, launch in 1 week, just like a startup. How can you take a service you provide or you want to provide and actually make it very, very quickly as a product so you can actually do better business, provide a really interesting services, better services, make more profit, things like that. So this slide and the thing that I've been preparing and thinking are talking about that. So let's jump into it. Let's explain all the details. And as always, if you guys have any questions, contact us on YouTube, on the website, comment. We have an article for this. We have a video, we have audio for this. And just talk to us if you have any particular insights or questions about this, right? I've run a web agency for 15 years and I have a lot of insight on this and things that we, discovered over the years, okay? So service as a product, MVP launch in 1 week. How do you run something and launch it? So first thing I want to do is actually define what is a service as a product a little bit better. So no matter what business you're on, digital business, physical business, home services, whatever business services, things like that, you provide a service for someone. So service as a product also can be called a productized service. It's basically a service that you standardize. You have a set result, a set description, a set price. Everything is set and easy and clearly defined. So someone can go to your website, understand what you do, and they don't have to contact you with all these back and forths for days and weeks of understanding the requirements and creating something custom. You are defining a very clear result or deliverable, something that you know you will provide and you know can fit a ton of businesses. Most of the businesses or most of the personal people, they can fit them very well. So you have a fixed price, you have a package or multiple packages. Maybe you have some plans or packages that fit different types of businesses, and I'll give some examples soon. And it makes everything very, very easy to understand what your product is, what your service is, and it's very easy to buy. You can just actually go to the website, just click and buy online. They don't even need to contact you or talk to sales. They can literally read, understand it. If they like it, the customer, they just go and they pay, and then you can start the service itself. And one thing that I think is very, very important is I really like the service as a product to be as automated, as automatic as possible, so you can do a better job. you can increase greatly your profitability. And a service as a product also, aside from reducing the sales cycle, it reduces customer service, it reduces returns, and really importantly, increases the profitability. You can do a ton of things, okay? Some people call this productized service. Some people call it a service as a product, package service, set service, on-demand service, depending on what the specific thing is, okay? Let me give you a few examples so you can understand what kind of businesses might fit this. In short, any business that provides a service can make a service as a product, or make their service more like a product. Doesn't have to be exactly like a product, but more like a product, so they can do better, increase their profitability, things like that. So give you a few examples. So first of all, the example that most of you probably are aware of is any digital business that provides a SaaS type of business. So SaaS is software as a service. They're basically providing some kind of code, some kind of website, some kind of app that actually provides a service all digitally. So you don't even need to interact with people in general unless you have some customer service issue, but you provide a service. So for example, using Photoshop right now, you pay a monthly fee, and then you have a whole tool set. You have all the things to make images and edit images, things like that. So that's a generic one, SaaS. A lot of businesses online do it. Another one is a service called 99 Designs, where you can design a logo. There's a set price. There's a set outcome. You have some plans based on different types of things, and they connect you with different designers, and then it's kind of a set thing. So it's an actual product. It's a service, but it's actually a product, okay? I want to give you a few things. So a programmer, for example, they might do some custom work for customers, but they can also provide a service as a product, for example, a monthly backup service. And what they can do is they can fully automate it, and then on their website say, okay, this is what I'm going to provide. I'm going to provide this kind of backups. You're going to get it once a week, once a month, whatever defined in the service itself. And then they can actually do it all automatically. So the profitability is very, very high because they can customize it one time and fit a ton of customers with this monthly backup service. And then it's a really good thing, okay? I want to give you, because digital services and web design and programming and SaaS, those are pretty obvious, and I think you guys can understand that pretty simply. I also want to give you some what I call offline businesses, how you can make your service as a product. So I'll give you a few more examples of things that are not digital for those of you that are also listening to this that are not just web design, marketing, programmers, things like that. So let's say you're a personal chef. You actually you go to people's homes, you provide a service that you actually cook for them. So you can go to your website and you can create a service as a product, and you can specify, this is my rate. This is, for example, $1,000. I create a sushi dinner for you guys for 10 people. These are the days I work. This is what you get with your sushi dinner. You can have a set meal. Every time everybody sees all the pictures, they know exactly what they get, and they can just go online, buy. They don't need to talk to you. Click buy, and then reserve the date, and then you can actually go ahead and book it, okay? Another thing is maybe carpet cleaning, for example, right? So you can have a service that every 2 months you come and you deep clean all the carpets, and you can specify on your website, this is what I do, this is what I include. I include up to 4 carpets. I come every 2 months. And this is the service, this is the cost. It automatically bills. You have now a product that is automatically billed, but it's actually a service. And the last thing is a translator. For example, I need to translate from English to French. I provide a service. I provide, for example, you want to buy, you can go to my website. It's 1,000 words translation. I translate these languages. The delivery time is, for example, 1 week. And obviously for your automation and for your things, you can actually use AI to provide the initial translation, and then you go manually and fix it. So you can actually save a lot of time. You can automate a lot of things. Okay. Hope this makes sense. And let's jump into the next parts. So what I talked about is making an MVP, making a new service as a product, launching in your business in 1 week or less. So what are the things you need to consider when you do these things? Number one is you need to actually make an MVP. So you need to figure out the service and then make it very, very thin, very, very small. What can you do that you can automate or you can scale very easily that you can actually fit for most businesses? What can you reduce that is not too custom for every single specific client? Okay, what can you do? So that's the first thing. Second thing is you can actually create a website with some tools we're going to recommend a little later. With no developer, you can do it by yourself, and you can launch very quickly. You can sell your first few products or your first few services, and then you can start to improve over time. So you can first launch, make sure you can validate the market. You can actually get a few sales, and then you get their feedback and you improve, and then you start automating more and more and more. And the last thing is use automation and templates, which means because this is a product, these are set things. You're going to deliver the same kind of things. You're going to provide the same kind of customer service. You're going to provide the same kind of education or service or whatever it is. You should start using templates. You should reuse templates. You should create these things you can reuse, and then you can automate as much as possible. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, great. So next thing. So now I'm going to talk about what are the steps you need to do in order to actually launch this new product as a service quickly, and what are the things you need to think about over time to get it going. Okay, get it going, improve it, and do things like that. Okay, the first thing you need to do is find, obviously, the service idea. So if you have an existing business, you can just take all of the clients and all the services that you provide and figure out what are the common things that you provide that are not really much different from client to client. So what are the most common things? The second thing is you should also look at what are the market gaps. What are people looking for as far as simple services or simple products that they need? And because you already have some feedback, what are the simple things you can do? You can start from very, very small, and you can even charge very, very little money as long as you can really automate these and have profit from them. So you can have a ton of services for that. Okay. Don't forget about the automation. You should try to automate and scale these things at least in part in your service, or in some cases in full. You can actually automate the whole thing. So for example, we had some examples about SaaS products. So you can actually make code to do the whole thing by itself, or maybe you do some kind of service. You can actually make code to allow the customer to go just click around and put their input, and then the code will actually provide the result and the templates and the PDF and invoices and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And one more thing about if you already have specific services, what are the things that provide the most waste? What are the things that take the most amount of time that are only unique for those specific customers, for one customer at a time? Try to create the service that is not wasteful, right? That is very, very common to other projects. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is pricing and profits. So you actually have to set, because this is a set service, a set product, you have to define the pricing. So the first thing I would actually do is I would actually work, first of all, from the profit margin, not from what the price would be, but you can actually take this service as a product, figure out what your cost is going to be, how many hours you need, how many servers, how many code, how many things do you need, how many third parties do you need, figure out what your cost is, and then decide on the price itself. So for example, if this service takes me, for example, one server, and it only takes me 3 human hours to actually do it, I can decide that I can actually multiply that, for example, by 3 or 5 or something like that. And then I can actually have a very high profit margin, and I can actually scale it. I can repeat it very, very easily, very simply. As long as I do good sales and marketing, I can actually get, hundreds a month or thousands a month or etc. So I would actually work from the profit margin first, figure out what your margins are, and then kind of multiply that. Obviously, you need to check what's competitive in the market if that exists. But I really like to look at the profit margin. Service as a product is supposed to have very high margins. That's really, really important, okay? Now, one thing is, because you're trying to launch this service quickly, you can low price it in the beginning, and you can raise over time, and you can figure out what customers are willing to pay for, and you can adjust it very, very quickly. It's okay to raise your prices, or for the first customers to get a very low price, because you're going to get feedback from them. You're going to refine your flows and your service and your documentation and your terms and your return policies and your privacy policies and all those, that automation. You can actually quickly launch it first and then get it going. Okay. And don't forget, when you create pricing, because this is a set service, you sometimes might want to create different plans or different variations. For example, if I have my chef, I give you an example of the chef. I can have a dinner for 10, a dinner for 20, a dinner for 30, and then maybe like a vegetarian dinner and then meat dinner. So I can have maybe 3 to 5 sets and or plans, excuse me, and then it can actually define. It can actually provide service for all these different variations, all these different types of customers that might want some different things. Okay. Next one. Website and content. So we're trying to launch this quickly, a service quickly to expand your business, to do better, to have more profit. Now, how do you create a website and content very, very quickly? So first thing I recommend is don't use the developer. Don't hire a company to do that, because there's a lot of solutions out there that you can create some landing pages or a new website or a subdomain, and you can actually create a website very, very simply, and it looks really, really good. So what I recommend is using Shopify. You can use their templates, either the free template or just buy a template for like $200. And you can actually go to the customize section. You can click, upload banners, do things like that. So launching quickly means you have to reduce the waste and reduce the number of people that are involved in it. So if you don't need a developer, you can save a lot of time and obviously money. The good thing about Shopify is, aside from it's very easy, it looks beautiful, it's very low cost, and you can pay $20 a month for Shopify. It also includes a payment system. So because this is a service as a product, you don't need the sales to talk to the customer and send invoices and send payment requests. They just go to the website, they click on the product, I want it, click pay now, they go to checkout, they input. Everything is fully automated. Everything is working as far as here's what we provide, here's the website content. You can pay, you can get an auto email, you can get your invoice. Everything is already set up for this first thing. You can set up a new website in a day or two, and you can learn within a few hours on YouTube if you don't know how to do it, and then you can really create a good service that people can buy as a product very, very quickly. Okay, the most important thing of what we talked about as a product, as a service, as a product, is you need to clearly define what you're providing. So what is the service? What is included? What are the terms? What are the privacy policy? What are the return policy? What do I get? What is the end result? If you remember in the beginning, we say clearly define price, clearly define the service you're getting, clearly define everything very, very well. So one company, I talked about 99 Designs, where you can make a logo. They do it really, really well. I really love how they define it. They answer any question that any customer has without you actually having to call in. So they define everything. They have one page called How It Works, and they basically explain all the steps. First of all, you need a design, and then you actually provide some input. So you actually have to provide something to them. Then we connect you with different designers. You get different pitches. You get multiple versions. For each plan, you get, for example, 20 versions, 40 versions, 60 versions. You get the input. We have a money back guarantee. The time frame is actually going to be, for example, between a few days to 1 week. They actually answer every single question you have. This is the deliverable. These are the rights. When you get the logo, you actually have full rights. It's owned by you. They answer every single question. They obviously have things like reviews and stuff like that, but they answer really well. And for pricing, they actually have 4 plans. They have 4 plans starting from $300 to $1,300, and they give you all the questions that you answer. This is a really, really good example. If you haven't seen 99 Designs, I suggest for you to actually go there to understand how a service as a product really works. They have the page called Pricing on the footer, and they have the page on the top called How It Works. They explain so well about it. It's really, really beautiful to see. They've obviously refined it over the years, but I would say this is a perfect example how you should define your product. So people don't even need to call you. They can read everything. It's so clear. They don't have that much writing, but they do have all these plus, like show more if you want to get more detail. But they provide you what's a deliverable, what files do you get, where is it stored, how long does it take, the guarantees you have, the copyright. Everything is really, really defined well. Good job, guys. It's awesome what they did. Okay. So website and content, don't forget all the policies. Don't forget to define your product and your service really, really, really well. You can over time add to it because you're going to get customer service questions. You can continue to add so you actually reduce your customer service questions in the future. Okay, next one. ensure automation scaling built-in system. Now, aside from it being a set price, a set deliverable, what the customer gets, you should actually want to optimize, because this is a product. Just like a phone is a product, you just get the same phone every time. There's automation in building a phone, for example, right? There's machines that build the screen, machines that build the buttons, etc. You should want to optimize your automation and your scaling. What are the things you can do to make this service provide more smoothly, quicker, and less of human touch so you can actually do it? So depending on your business, there could be many things. The most basic version of automation is you should have your digital system do as many things as possible. So a new order is created. Obviously, you have a website that they don't need to talk to you. They can go to the website, they can buy. Once they buy, they successfully purchase, they get an auto email. Then you can actually input your task, right, the order, into a task management system. For example, we recommend to use Asana, which I'll talk about a little later. And then the task can be automated. Maybe, for example, as a translator, I can actually use ChatGPT to translate the first thing, and then it'll go to my Asana, say, translation by AI is complete. Now I need to review it by human, and you do that, and then all the emails get sent, and the PDFs and the proof and all that kind of stuff. So you can automate a lot of things digitally using Asana, which is a task management system, and the automation will actually be via something like Zapier, which will connect Shopify to your systems, to your Asana, which is your task management system or your customer service system, and it also send emails for you. And you can actually automate it, make the whole system scale and actually automate. So it's a really, really good thing to do, okay? Now, because you're trying to launch a service in 1 week or less, you're not going to be able to automate the whole thing. But what you need to do is when you build this product, aside from defining what you're doing, you should actually want to figure out and make sure that you can automate a lot of the parts, because the more you can automate these parts, the more profit you can have, the quicker deliverable the customer gets, and the better quality everybody gets. Okay, so automation, templates, scaling, these are very, very important things that you can reuse over time, because you're providing a set deliverable, a set result to your customer. Okay, great. The next one is build the flows. So I like to use, for example, Asana to actually get the orders and have some kind of flow for it. So because this is a product, it's a set result. You know that the internal flow, the thing is going to happen in a set way. So for example, the most simplest thing you can do is have 4 sections. One is anytime there's a new order in Shopify, the Zapier sends it to Asana, and that order gets in what we call the new orders column. So any new orders that have not been processed, they've been paid for. Now you know you have orders that need to process. Then when you start working on the orders, either programmatically or manually, you actually drag it from the new orders to in progress. You work on the task, and then when you finish it, you actually drag it to the complete, and the complete will automatically via Zapier send a confirmation email to your customer with the result, the PDF, the proof, or whatever it is. You can start automating that. And then I would have another column, which is customer service. Anybody has issues with their order, wants to refund, has questions before the sales, you can actually have another one with Asana, and then you can track everything there, and it can be an organized way to make your service as a product more organized and have a flow. You can make more complicated things, but this is the most basic thing that I recommend. It's a great thing. We'll be making some Asana videos and topics in the future, but that's kind of the idea, okay? And the next thing is talking about Zapier, right? So Zapier is one of many automation systems that you can actually create connections between systems. So I talked about when you have a new order in Shopify, send the task to Asana so I can actually start processing them. You can have some kind of automation. Maybe you have a system like ChatGPT or something like that to automate some of your steps, or maybe some development you did or something like that. And then Zapier can send it to the process task. When the task is finished, Zapier can update Shopify to complete and deliver the order. And then maybe, for example, 14 days later, you actually send via Zapier an auto email, say, ask for a review, because you're actually trying to get more, get more notice for this product, right? So you want to have more trust, build more trust for it. You want other people to recommend it, things like that. So you can have many, many things in the automation, but this is just one very simple way to think about it. Okay. Now, the good thing about Zapier You can connect it to other systems and any system that you want via some programming. And so you can actually automate more and more things, not just ChatGPT, but you can do your own internal systems or your own code or marketing automation or anything that might be, depending on what it is. Okay. Next one. Launch quickly and sell. We talked about let's launch in 1 week. Don't automate that much. You need to, just like a startup, have your service, define it very well, launch it quickly, and then sell your first ones and get feedback, and then update and optimize over time. So what is the most important thing? You have a service that you already provide or you want to provide. Now you make it as a product, so it's a little bit more skinny, a little more defined, a little better. You don't know if it's going to sell yet. So launch quickly, make a site with Shopify. Don't have a developer, things like that. Launch the website, sell to your friends, sell to colleagues, people that you know, sell to work connections, get your first 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 orders, figure out what's important for them, improve the internal flow, how to optimize it, how to automate these things quickly so you can make more profit, you can deliver quickly, you can actually reuse things so the quality is better, the documentation is better, the customer service is better, you have templates, you have reusable things. So do it, and just like a startup, improve the descriptions, improve the terms, improve the refund policy, improve your pricing, and then move forward. So in addition to selling to your friends and work connections, you can also run a Google Ads campaign, take a few $100, $1,000, whatever it might be, run it to that page, figure out what people like, what they don't like, improve, and get some sales. This is a business. You're trying to actually get some sales. Okay, next one. When you get your first few orders and you get more than that, you're going to get a lot of feedback. Track in Google Analytics, track and ask questions, ask them what they're doing. Optimize your internal flow, how you actually deliver the product or the service better. Optimize your wording, your flows, your terms, and start to, once you have your first few sales, now you can start to automate more and more, add more features more and more, create upsells, add more plans, add more features, make new services. You can duplicate this and things like that. Don't forget that in addition to automating things, you can also templatize. You can actually make more templates to provide the end result, like the invoice you get, or the documentation on it, or the proof, or the images you get, and then reuse them for marketing, reuse them for your internal flow, and then improve it very, very quickly. You can get a lot of feedback quickly. You can improve your website and your internal flows, okay? So once you do that, you actually have a ready-to-go business, a new service you can provide, right? You got a website quickly, you're starting to automate, you got some sales, you got some real feedback. Now, just like any business, any service, you need to grow it. So how can you grow it? Just like any business, use sales and marketing. You can run ads, do social media, do SEO. You can write a lot of content, like blogging content, things like articles and tutorials. You have to do content marketing. You do reach out, submit on sites of service and product sites like Product Hunt. You can make affiliate programs, remarketing, upsells, podcasts, events, in-person, door-to-door, cold calling, whatever it is. There's a ton of things you can do, right? Okay, so you can do a ton of things. This is a service. Now, this is a service that has high profitability, and has very quick turnaround time, or should have a quick turnaround time. You should want to promote that very well and do better with your business, okay? So the last things, I know there's a lot of information here. I want to give you a few other things to think about, and then we're going to conclude. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know. What other things can you think about that you can do? So the way I would like to do it, because I like to do a lot of software things, basically all software things, I like to find a service that I can hopefully automate as close as possible to 100%. There's things you can do that you can provide software. You can make better software, invest more time to make it, but this whole service can actually be a product that is fully software-wise, fully automated. They don't even need me. The customer doesn't need me for anything other than some customer service and some human things. I can have very, very high profit margin, and I can provide a really, really good service to customers. Okay. The second thing is, which is maybe a lot more important, is I want to find a service that I can provide a monthly recurring service, because those are, aside from having high profitability, if I can have a customer that pays me every month for that service, that is really, really good. Okay. So that's good for the offline things. For example, maybe some translation, you can get some translations every month, or the carpet cleaning I talked about every 2 months, or some obviously software like Photoshop, which every month you pay for access to it, or any other thing for that. Okay. The third thing is I really want to use AI to be in the flow, at minimum for customer service help, at minimum for automating my systems. I want to have less humans involved, better quality, set definitions and prompts and templates. And I want to use AI to help me. AI is getting really, really good as of, last year, 2023. AI is starting to be really seriously helpful. It's not replacing you, but it can help you do some things, help you reduce some human efforts and make things better. And then the last thing I like to think about is, once I have a good service as a product, how can I make more of these services, right? If they're so good and they're providing sales and they're involving less humans and less waste, how can I make more service like that? There's a ton of things you can do. Okay. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. One Skills is here to help provide some cool insights about business, e-commerce, AI, blockchain, analytics, marketing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to make more and more podcasts, more audio, more videos, more tutorials. These things are free for you guys. It's here to help you guys, to make you guys better, faster, more efficient, teach you quicker. So hope this makes sense. If you have any questions about a service as a product, how to make your service company better, how to think as far as making products, not making just services, how to optimize your efforts, provide better quality services and products to your customers, let me know. Ask any questions, ask in the comments, ask on our website, ask in social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, obviously website, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all these kind of things. Please it helps us understand. Please give your feedback. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you didn't like, what you want us to dive deeper in. I think that's the most important part, what you want to go deeper in. And we're going to follow you guys and go with you guys deeper into topics that interest you for business and all these other topics we talked about. Much, much appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll come soon with more content. Thanks.